Some weeks back, someone posted in our school community about Tom Welling, and I didn't remember the name, but it talked about him going from Superman to Superdad. There was this big change in his face and body, and I didn't really think much of it at the time because the name didn't ring a bell. And then more recently, someone told me the name again and told me it was in relation to Smallville. And then everything started clicking because I know this show Smallville. Like, it was very popular, 20 years ago. So, and I'm from the US, and my dad was living in Vancouver area, and his ex-wife at the time they were filming Smallville was working on the set of Smallville. And so I used to hear stories from her or my dad about this Tom Welling guy, and like, according to her, he was kind of arrogant and full of himself, but anyway, so the name rung a bell. He was one of America's biggest teen heartthrobs at that time, 20 years ago. And so when I saw this picture of him today, he's like this middle-aged dude with, looks completely different, much worse. I was surprised. Wow. So in the post, they talk about the fact that he decided to get veneers. And I decided that it would make a good story to investigate. A little bit about Tom Welling. So he shot to fame in the early 2000s with this show Smallville, which ran for about 10 years. And it was like one of the most successful long-running TV series at the time. And he was this guy who was tall, very chiseled face, used to be a model, and he was playing Clark Kent and Superman. He shot to fame, but then in around 2011, so around the time that the show was ending, he did veneers. So there's not a lot of detail on exactly what he did, but there's quite a bit of analysis on the fact that he at least put veneers on all his front teeth and how it changed his smile. And he really had a pretty good smile even before that. So it's like there's a lot of questions like, why did he bother to do it? And something that Hollywood was pressuring him to do it. But you can see that he changed in the years after. Why do veneers change a person? Well, because veneers are done in such a way that they lock a position between the upper and lower teeth. And as I've explained in other videos, like, you need multiple supporting positions. So your jaw goes forward and things should slide forward on the cusps of the teeth. And that position needs to be supported. When you put your head back, your jaw goes back and it should be supported by the cusp of the teeth. And when dentists put on veneers, they don't pay any regard to that. And they just make sure that they fit together in one position. And the soft tissue comes deflating in, the skull collapses, cranial bones derange, you get more asymmetric, and you often have neurological and cognitive issues as well. I think this is what happened to Tom. And so you can see, pretty quickly, there's a picture of him in 2013, he already lost that chisel look. And he became that nice guy look. It's almost like you can see exactly how the same exact person with the same genetics, because the genetics didn't change, goes from chiseled, badass hot guy to nice looking guy to the guy that looks like, the girls stay away from him, right? All the same genetics, the same guy. And it's just, and you can see how it's always the difference between good looking people and bad looking people has nothing to do with genetics, has nothing to do with how much they eat, has everything to do with these biomechanics. That is the one thing that you can really take away about Tom, because he's still relatively young and he went from this super hot guy to this nice looking guy to this guy that women don't pay attention to in a relatively short amount of time. His career also kind of tanked with it, right? If you come off a big series like Smallville, one of the leading shows in the US for 10 years, you'd expect him to get all these big roles. But, after 11, he, barely played. He was playing in some secondary films and things, and his career kind of tanked, right? And these days, you never even really see him. When you see what happened to him physically and what probably happened to him neurologically, you begin to understand that, there were probably things going on, and there's a good reason why his career tanked. And these days, so if we talk about let's fast forward to 2023, he already looks like this middle-aged looking dude, and he was arrested for driving under the influence. And then again, recently in 2025, he was again arrested for driving under the influence. His career tanked, and he seems to be having these alcohol issues. And I have a feeling it was because he has experienced biomechanical collapse. What I find ironic about this is, he was Superman, the one that was invincible. In the show, Lex Luthor is always trying to take Superman down with kryptonite. But like Superman always escapes and kind of like wins at the end of the day. Biomechanics are not kryptonite. Biomechanics will always win. Biomechanics is like physics that like it'll just hammer you until whoever you are, you're gonna lose. Biomechanics never loses. That is unfortunately what happened to poor Tom Welling. So I hope that he, sees some of this stuff one day and he reverses his fortune, and maybe one day we'll see a Chad like Tom Welling again.